Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. What's up? Happy Thursday, everybody. What's going on? What's up? What's up? What's up?
Week 2 is here. We're already in week 2.
Yeah. Let me preface this by saying, as you know, and I've talked about in the past, I don't have an interest in anymore. And but if I wanted to, cannot bet on the NFL. But I do follow lines because I do think Vegas, it's instructive in getting a feel for everything because they seem to know, and the lines that they place are often very close to the outcomes. And the one for the Giants Commanders game keeps moving in a direction that it's possible that this will either be a pick 'em or maybe the Giants are a slight favorite by the end of all of this, the way that it's moved throughout the week, which does not make me feel confident, honestly. I'm trying to blow it off and I know that I can't because the line is partially based on where money is coming from and they move it, which means a lot of people were betting on the Giants early in the week. And that's why they moved it, but it's down to like 1.5. So they're not even what would be a standard 3-point favorite in a home opener against a team that had a terrible start. This is not promising. But like they're just the smoke signals from out there are not good, really.
Well, it's also Vegas latching on to recent results, right? What have we basically been talking about since Monday? This Giants team, for whatever reason, no matter how bad both of these teams are, definitively takes care of this team when Washington is probably even a slightly better team. For some reason, for whatever reason, it happens. And then last year was the biggest indictment of it, where Tyrod Taylor and your boy Tommy Cutlets both beat them. And Jones plays well against them. I don't blame Vegas here. You would just hope though we would have gotten some kind of benefit of the doubt. New era, home opener, weather's gonna be clear.
Yeah.
That doesn't bode well. The fact that all of that is stacking up and Vegas is still going, we don't like Washington. Code red, code red.
This is one of those like where the media can be helpful, but not in a good way because you kind of can't talk about it in the locker room because of the NFL rules. I would think some of the players know this. The ones that do, you're always like, I hope you're not betting on stuff. And then, but if you could just plant this seed that the public and Vegas kind of don't think you're going to win, like, I think would be helpful here
Sure.
because this is one of those like at 0-1, there's no such thing. I've gotten over it. There's no such thing as a must win. But I do believe emotionally for the fan base, it is. Like, this is one of those, it's the home opener of the new era. All the promises of you're going to like how we play. This is a weaker team. No one thinks they're going to end up in the playoffs. It's a division game. It's time to start turning the page on this rivalry, which Kayvon Thibodeau said yesterday wasn't one, by the way. And I just think it's like, it's time to, this is a show me game. I think for the fan base, we've had a lot of these, through the years. This is a show me game. We've had a couple against them. Remember, it was a couple of years ago. They had a Sunday night game against them. They had been on a win streak. It was the final, like everyone, there was one of the first times that late in the season, everyone expected them to win a game and have all that momentum. And that was the one where they played really poorly. Offense was extremely lackluster. And then they got a couple of bad calls at the end of the game when McLaurin was called for being like illegal formation, when he had asked the referee, was he offside? And
they got jobbed. They got jobbed on that one.
Yeah. And then the next play was Curtis Samuel got mugged in the end zone and they didn't call the penalty. And so like the end was terrible and it didn't go their way, but it didn't change the fact that they played extremely poorly on a night game where they were supposed to dominate them. And I don't know what it is about this one. Yeah. I don't know what it is about this one, but they just have had a hard time. Like, go look at the Giants record against everybody else and go look at it against Washington. Like, it doesn't really make any sense. And with everything kind of the page being turned here, I think we just kind of feel like, well, the page is going to get turned on that too. And Vegas is not saying that right now. So
I think one of the other things you have to look at too, the two that they've won, one of them, the Giants were conceding in a way we've never seen before, right? That was the one up there where taking a knee on third down or whatever it was, right? Wasn't it a knee on third
on their
down
own
on the
5-yard line.
Right,
In the
like
first
first
half
half, yeah.
because they were scared to run a play, which I've
Right,
never seen
right,
that before. Yeah.
right. So that was one of them. And then the other one was the week 2 Thursday nighter. My boy Dustin Hopkins nails a last second field goal. And that one was the other one, which same thing, though. They had no real business like keeping it that close. Jones ripped off a few runs, but I mean, still.
That's another one. Remember, that was the one where Dexter Lawrence was called on a missed field goal for
Yes.
doing something that gave him a second chance. I don't even remember what it was, but it was a very controversial call that gave him a second chance. So when they have beaten them, it's hair of their chinny chin chin.
Yeah.
And it's been a couple of years because it's been 4 games. They had a tie with them a couple of years ago.
That's right.
Now it's funny. I don't know what Dan Quinn's going to say about this to me, but when I talk to him tomorrow for the broadcast, I am going to bring up the amount of points that they scored against his Dallas defense. And it's like he dominated them. Like they shut them out last year. They gave up 17 aggregate points. They've given up Dallas over the last, 3 years or so. I think the Giants scored more than 20 in a game like once or twice. Like, so now, do we have Dallas's defense in the making? Like, I don't know about that, but at least from that perspective, they haven't had a problem slowing down Cutlets or Tyrod or Dimes for that matter. So I want to talk to, I'm sure he's going to give me a very coachy speak thing and he's not going to be like, well, this is what we did to him. But I am going to bring it up because we've had problems with them, both sides of the ball, and they haven't. Not where he's been the last couple of years. Dallas has completely throttled them in most of the games that they've played. So, and that's a lot of teams have done that to them. So, but I do want to ask him and see what he says about it as to why his defense was so successful against them and our defense through the years. Dimes looks like a Pro Bowler when he runs the ball.
Yep. I will say this too, though. The stat, I think I want to say I saw JP tweet this yesterday that the stat on Dimes is a little skewed. He has 10 touchdowns against Washington, and I think JP said 5 of them were in one game. So 5 total, because it's 10 total. I guess it's rushing and passing. So
I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah, but he basically said
it's probably right. I just have to go back.
So it was like this dominance. Is it like as bad as we think it is? He just gets wins, and of course it's kind of like pitcher wins, right? Where it's like it's not the most important stat in the world, but somehow he just does it against this team. So
all right, so let's get into it. Actually, I want to talk about him for a minute. Let me start with him because I read this story after the week 1 game with Minnesota, and I'm just going to read it verbatim, and it's from CBS, and it's something. While New York Giants quarterback Daniel Jones has been lighting a lightning rod for criticism from the moment he was chosen number 6 overall in 2019, there was a decidedly vicious and alarming escalation in New York sentiment towards him after the Giants' listless 28-6 loss to the Vikings in week 1. Jones, who played arguably the worst game of his entire career coming off a torn ACL and looked like a shell of the quarterback he was when he defeated the Vikings in the 2022 playoffs, was completely savaged by boos to the point that Vikings players began to pity him. Even then, the humiliation ritual was not over. Certain people who attended Sunday's week 1 opener at the Meadowlands went as far as to stick around outside the players' exit after the game to boo and heckle him, subjecting him to a walk of shame as he left the stadium to simply get to his car and drive home. Wow.
That is absurd. Like
I agree.
I don't even care
too much. It's one thing when we make fun of them and we call it,
–
guys, grow up. Like, what are you doing?
I would say this too. I understand the Vikings point of view too. Like I read that one. I didn't hear about that second part. I heard about the first part with the Vikings players. Even I thought, oh wow, that's got to be bad. Because even in the NFL, business is business, baby. Like if you're dominating a quarterback, who cares? But the fact that it was week 1, they're saying they feel bad for Jones, and then to stick around and heckle the guy. Guys, you didn't draft him first overall. You didn't draft him out of USC. You didn't he wasn't hyped up to be this Peyton Manning type quarterback. And then this goes into the realm too that I always get pissed off at sports fans for. The Giants gave him that extension. Was he not supposed to take it? Use every shred of logic you've got here. And he's coming off a major injury. I'm not saying he's like this amazing quarterback, but I don't know what you want to do. And the team basically did tell you on Hard Knocks they don't want him anyway. So what does this solve? Like they want him gone. Like the wheels are in motion that he's not going to be your quarterback after this year.
We talked about this when Hard Knocks came out, and I talked about it with Anita yesterday on the show. If you missed it, you can listen to her. She just went off on him.
It was great.
She is my Trump. I could just trigger her and say anything about the team. Like I was talking to Kime about this yesterday too, because he has, I guess, Jordan Ranan's going to come on his podcast this week, and he goes, "I love Giants Week just for the guests because they go full New York. Like they just." Even the reporters can't help themselves, but they just go full New York on them. And he's like, and the conversation gets weird. And mine with it. That's why I love having Anita on, because I just know if I just tee her up, she's going to go off on that team. And like we talked about it, but I'm like, you should be mad at the front office. Like, don't be mad at this guy. Like, I said this the second they gave him that extension. I went, they're going to regret that. Like, you can't pay somebody of that level, that kind of money, even though you've convinced yourself you have to do this. Like the Joe Shane thing that really was illuminating was that he puts prices on things and just doesn't want to be flexible about the idea of what those prices are. Meantime, teams like the 49ers don't do that. The Eagles clearly didn't do that with the one player we're talking about. And go look, like I've always firmly landed on, you just pay your stars at whatever position they are, as long as they want to be there and you want them back and there's no like crazy injury concerns, you just pay them. You're like, I don't care if you've got the best guard, you just pay the best guard. You don't worry about like the number and exactly where it is. Like that's what the Commanders did with Cosme. They think he's going to be a Pro Bowl guard. So they just paid him. Like they're just not worrying about it. They just did it. And the Giants seem to have gotten caught up in this. Well, is he worth 12.5 when he's only worth when we think he's worth 12? And then, well, you just like we've got to pay. They think they got a deal on Daniel Jones at 40+ million a year because they see what the number is. And I think that they're like, it was so eye-opening how they're making their decisions. It didn't look good to me. I was talking to Anita about it. I'm like, the craziest part is since they put that out, they think they look smart in that series, and everybody on the outside does not. Like they have seriously no self-reflection to put that out there and think that made them look really smart. And I agree with you on Jones. Like I saw, I rewatched their game and it is really, really, really bad, but I'm with you too. Like guys, like these are human beings. This guy is coming off of a serious injury. I come to terms with the fact that he is not that level of a quarterback, but really at this point, the organization who knows that, said that, publicized that should be the one that you're booing and heckling because they made the decisions that they made to be in the positions that they're in. He's just going out there and playing. Like, so as much as I hope we take advantage of him too, like I was like, read that and I'm like, that's appalling. Like it really is.
No. And like, this is I'll use one of my favorite Doc Walker isms. Those are low IQ individuals. Like Philly fans last year, we were knocking them, but then they were actually the smart ones, right? They knew it was the scheme and Sirianni. They weren't blaming Hurts. They weren't blaming any specific player. And all I would point to is to Giants fans is you think it's all Jones' fault? You guys have sucked for over a decade now. It's not all him. It doesn't all fall on him. Yeah. Like where do you get off in saying it's all this guy's fault? I can't believe I'm defending Daniel Jones on the week we're playing the Giants, but like
when I read this one and I felt the same way, I'm like, are you kidding? Like really?
Like I think you're smarter than that. Like you guys have a bunch of failed draft picks, a bunch of terrible signings. You ran through coaches faster than we have down here. Like why is he the crux of you blaming for everything? I don't really get it. So yeah, like that's to me, that's the fan base too, just not being smart about all of it. It is not his fault 100%. And he was never hyped up to be this game-changing quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing, and hopefully, because I'm assuming he did the interview yesterday, so I'm assuming he's playing. They were asked, like, are you going to turn to Drew Lock? And Daboll said no. So that to me is a good thing. Vegas doesn't think that's a good thing, but I think it's a good thing that they're sticking with this. Like, I actually think if they had made a quick change, which would be unusual to do it, but had they done it, I'd be a little more concerned about their offense if they'd put Lock in, because it'd be part of the we don't know what we don't know. And that guy's not struggling physically and maybe mentally a little bit, whatever. The other thing that does worry me, though, is this one. So the Giants' strength is going to be their defensive line. It will be. They have 3 potential Pro Bowlers: Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, who they signed for $1 billion, and Kayvon Thibodeau. This is going to be their strength just because they're all singularly all Pro Bowl caliber players, and they're all very good. And if they ever get coordinated together right, it's going to be a dangerous line. In fact, it's the one thing about them that I look at and I go, that's going to be an issue. Apparently against Minnesota, they did not get a lot of pressure. Minnesota controlled time of possession. They're pissed because it's Sam Darnold. You know, the New York fans are like, I can't even believe we're getting roasted by Sam Darnold after all. Maybe that's part of it too. Like, I can't. Sam Darnold walked in here on a team that nobody thinks is going to be very good this year and killed us. And oh, by the way, the best part of our team was a no-show. And we lived this for a while when we had Chase, Montez, Allen, and Payne. When they no-showed in games, people went off on them. This happened the other day. And this is the other part that I don't love, because this is an interesting matchup. Washington last week, some of the best talent that Tampa Bay had did not play. So I don't think we got to see them kind of one-on-one deal with Pro Bowl or high-level caliber players. They actually dealt with a rotational player. What they dealt with was scheme. And we can discuss whether they handled it very well. This week, I don't think they're just dealing with scheme. What we're going to learn about our offensive line, because we don't know what they are right now, is can they handle top-level talent? And top-level talent that's been hearing it from their media and their fans that they stunk up the joint. And I know how this goes. The second you start telling guys like this that they stink and they read about it and they hear about it and they can't get away from it, they show up the next week. So this is the part of the game that I feel like is going to be the game. Can our offensive line handle a pissed off group of Pro Bowl caliber players, which is the best unit? And if they can, we're going to win. And if they can't, Jaden is either leaving the pocket early, actually getting sacked this time, or who knows what else.
Yeah, it's funny you bring this up first, essentially, in terms of matchups. I don't know if you follow Jordan Renan on Twitter, but he posted a video yesterday. It was pretty good. It was full Jordan, essentially. He was like, I know I criticized this team, and maybe it's a little too much at time, but he was like, look for monster games from Thibodeau and Burns. He was like, they're hearing the noise from last week. And even he said, over the last few years, this Washington offensive line hasn't been good. They're still trying to figure out what they're doing. And even he posted like a 1-minute video of, watch out for these two this week, because essentially they know that they didn't perform well last week. And now they know what they're walking into down in Washington.
You know what? This might be better than what we've had in the past, which is we just feel like, why aren't we winning these games against them? Vegas would suggest we should. There's no nobody's sitting there basically telling the Giants, like, it's not these narratives that are going into it. I think that's what I don't like about this. It's like, this is the one time where, oh God, we're at home. The line's going the wrong way. The one group that we don't need to be motivated and pissed is motivated and pissed. Oh God. Like, it's all adding up to, this is not going to be a total reversal from last week. This is going to be a dogfight with them.
Right.
And like, hopefully, if the football gods like us, they're going to grant us a win here, because it feels like it's heading in a direction. And, you know, the Bengals are playing the Chiefs this week in Arrowhead, so they could easily be 0-2 when we play them on Monday Night Football. So this is and you know how that goes. Like, you don't think they're not going to show up and be pissed? Like, of course they are. Do you think they're not going to hear it all week if they lose this week, especially if they lose bad? Like, if they score 10 points against them and lose 35-10 and hear all the, you ain't Burrowhead anymore crap from them, and are you even a contender? That's not going to be a fun week leading into having to go there on a spotlight game where on Monday night they're going to be talking about all your problems, like, and they already know what it is. We better win this game. I don't care how. I don't care if it's by a point. I don't care if we get a safety. I don't care how it happens. Like, it's got to happen. It does. And I don't like the things that are like getting teed up here as we head into Sunday at all.
I think my worst fear on Sunday too is the complimentary football could be a disaster if the secondary doesn't get it together and Jones pops off 1, 2, 3 big plays and they find themselves down again 10-0, 14-0, 17-0 or something like that. And then Jaden is forced to do the same thing he did last week, and that was drop back a bunch and either take what he can get or try to make it work with these wide receivers. That's what I'm actually really afraid of too. Like this we talked all offseason about the weapons Jaden has and the lack thereof. And granted, I think they have a really good running game going. I thought Eckler actually was really good after rewatching the game. But I look at this and I go, I don't think we all anticipated the defense. And granted, once again, zoom out, Tampa's really good. But if this defense doesn't get their what together, then Jaden all of a sudden is going to be dropping back a bunch in all of these second halves. And it's just not good football. It's not good complementary football towards each other.
It's going to have to be better for sure. And we'll see. Like, it's going to have to be better, but I don't like how this is adding up right now. And, we'll see. Give it another day, see what they say. And then I'm hoping that there's kind of just collective, because everything is so new here, when we start bringing up all these things like, you guys haven't beaten the Giants and they can't beat anybody else and all this stuff. And they just go, we don't know what you're talking about. We're all new here, guy. And I think that's a fair sentiment. Like, there's a lot of carryovers, but the majority of the team was not here. The majority of the people in the building were not here. They didn't live this. So this is one of those turn the page, guys. Like, it ain't the same old. And if we have an opportunity to beat a division team because they're kind of down and it's the right time to do it, we're just going to do it. Don't get so hot under the collar about the whole thing. So
I will say this, especially last year, it's not like the defense fell apart against this team. It was really the offense that let them down both of those games.
It was.
Yeah, up there. And
where 7 points against them.
Right. There. They scored 14.
That was the one John Allen after the game.
Do-rag John Allen game.
Was dressed up and said, I'm sick of this crap, you know what? And then walked out the door.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I look at that one, I go, it wasn't the defense fault on that first one. The second one, I can't really remember. I know Cutlets won that game, but I think it was like
we sacked him 9 times and lost.
Yes. Right. Yes. So
there's amazing stats in these matchups. We sacked them. It was something like, I read this the other day. Washington only had like 39 sacks, was very low last year. Low number. I mean, all their defensive numbers are bad. 13 of the 39 came into 2 games against the Giants. Games that they lost,
yeah.
13 sacks in 2 games against backup quarterbacks and lost them both. Think about that for a second.
It's unbelievable.
It is. All right, let me take a quick break. Bram wants to show ESPN 630 to Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Bram wants to show ESPN 630 to Sports Capital. One last little thought. Maybe we'll talk about this more tomorrow, but in thinking about what's going on with them right now and thinking about Hard Knocks for sure, if this goes sideways, their season, and a lot of that might kind of start to hinge on what happens Sunday, because if they somehow lose bad, like if they lose bad again somehow to Washington, their fans are going to flip. I mean, if they lose again 28-6, they're going to, especially because they're so used to beating Washington, they're going to flip out.
Yeah.
But like if it starts to go sideways, I actually think there probably is a crack in the door right for Belichick to take over that team, right?
I think there's a crack, but I also, would you put it past them?
Not in the middle of the season. I'm talking about after.
No, but I think, would you put it past them that this whole Daniel Jones thing, to play it out with him, would not be a ploy for them to get a top pick? I mean, like, I wouldn't put it past the way that I saw how they operate on Hard Knocks to just be hey, we weren't bad enough to get one of those quarterbacks last year. Well, this is what we've got. Let's try to get one of them next year. Like, I don't know. I just wouldn't put it past them for that and keep Daboll. Because I think you and I have both agreed. Daboll's a good coach. I don't think you just fire him off that. So
yeah, I'm leaning on what he did his first season with that team. And I'm like, I think that guy knows what he's doing. I don't love their roster, which I think is what the real problem is. And then after Hard Knocks, I don't love their decision-making. Like, I'm like, I don't really get it. And this will then be up to the mayor. Is it like, if they do have a really bad year and they do have a really high pick and they do have a new young quarterback coming in, do they want this front office making those decisions, even if that's the easy one to make? I don't know. I also think it's weird. I was talking to Anita about it yesterday. I'm like, they were so hot to trot to get Caleb, Jaden, or Drake May. Why didn't they just take McCarthy, Penix, or Nix? Like, they seem to have cut off a delineation there. even though like they were willing to pick any of those three, like any of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, the one that actually made sense too would have been Penix because you had Jones under
100%.
contract. You had to play him. You would have played him for at least half the year, right? And then maybe you see what you got with him. But he was the one that everybody's going, oh, he's just got to sit for a year, make sure he's okay. And even Atlanta, though, they saw enough in preseason that they stopped playing him in preseason. So yeah, I'm with you. And I mean, maybe they were doing the whole trying to trade down, and they didn't have any dance partners, but at that point too, it's a quarterback. You just take them, and if it works out, then no one cares where you picked them. So yeah, I don't understand either on that.
Yeah, I don't understand it, but I do think now because everyone knows Belichick has this like love affair with the Giants from when he was the defensive coordinator under Parcells in the 80s. I would bet if you asked him the honest truth, if you're going to coach anywhere to break the all-time wins record, that he would probably say he would like to do it there. This team is sliding the wrong way. I thought Hard Knocks did not put them in a good light. It has started really poorly. Some of the decisions they're making are blowing up in their face already. I just see the door open for because Belichick's going to come back next year. He's going to coach somebody, I think, next year. This organization is ripe for he could take it over as the president / GM / coach. So I'm watching that, and I don't like the idea of that at all. Like, we don't need him in our division. Like that's not good.
I mean, I don't know. Can I counterpoint that in that it's not like without Brady, he's been amazing.
Counterpoint the all-time winningest coach. Go ahead.
Sure. But counterpoint is that he hasn't been the same without Brady. His personnel decisions haven't been the same either. And not only that, like he'd have to go in there and establish his culture. I don't even call it a new culture. It's his culture where it's no nonsense. It's no BS. He's old school coach. No one's an old school coach anymore. It doesn't work anymore. Like that's my counterpoint. Like if they get off to a good start.
Andy's a likable version of it, but he works those guys hard in training camp. He plays them in preseason games. Like they're not, there's no new school attitude about them, and they win a ton.
Yeah, but Andy though is collaborative. Like listen to Travis Kelce talk about him. Listen to Mahomes talk about him. He's a hard coach, but he also asks the players, hey, do you want to try this? Hey, do you want to work on this? He's a little more collaborative than Bill ever was. Bill, it's his way or the highway. We saw that with personnel decisions, the people that started, all of that stuff. So I'm just saying, like, yeah, I don't want him in the division either, but I also know how the young rookie players that come into the league now, they're not used to that coaching anymore. I mean, they haven't been coached like that since before they were born, essentially. So I don't know. Like, it's not a guarantee that it would work either.
One other quick thing. Don Van Natta has a very long piece about Robert Kraft, which kind of reads like he's just complaining that he's not in the Hall of Fame and wondering, why am I not in the Hall of Fame? To which, like, I can't believe that he wants to talk about this and pitch himself this way. Like, really? Like, you're so incredibly wealthy. You've won so many Super Bowls. You're so incredibly successful. You're so involved in so many different things. Why is this end of life or towards end of life thing such a hang up for you that you must have it happen? Like, I just don't understand why he so badly needed to publicize this. I don't know why.
I have a theory on this one. One, it's also I will say for Kraft. Kraft is actually, he seems like he's one of the good people. Like he always loans his plane out for like charity efforts and stuff. And we've seen him give the plane to certain college teams that need it. Like I think Navy needed a charter at some point, and he gave up the Patriots plane. And I think he gave the plane for like some other relief efforts or whatever. Here's my theory on this though. Kraft, buddy with Brady, right? He was his best friend, prevented him from being traded, fired Belichick. He kind of knows it's never going to be better than that. I think he wants to go into the Hall of Fame and then sell the team. That's what I think he wants to do.
And I think maybe it also is he wants credit for the dynasty. He doesn't want just Belichick to have it. And he's been living with, is it Tom? Is it Bill? Is it both of them? And he's sitting there in the corner going, it's me too, of which I don't know if I would say that out loud.
Correct. And I mean, here's the thing too. Like, I'll give him credit for Foxborough, I guess, where that became kind of the cookie cutter of how stadiums are now, retail, stadium, all that stuff. But it's not original. Like, he wasn't the first one to do it.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing too. Like, Jerry's in the Hall of Fame, correct? Didn't he go in a couple years ago?
That's a big part of this, that they're not
Right.
not happy that Jerry Jones. Talk about just when you use the word fame, that applies.
Yes.
To Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with Jerry though did help revolutionize the league a little bit. Like, he got the biggest stadium out of all of it. He made his team into a brand. He was really good speaking with the media. Like, Jerry did all of these things as an owner that make him a Hall of Fame owner. Love him or hate him, he is a Hall of Fame owner. Kraft is not that. I'm sorry. Like,
God, he's won a lot of That's a lot of Super Bowls. I don't know.
I mean, he wrote the checks, but all the billionaires in the league write the checks. Like, what did he do that was better than everyone else? Like, I don't know.
It's so strange. He's so kind of irked by that. Like, listen. I guess when you've achieved certain levels of things, you expect a certain level of respect. He doesn't feel respected in this process, so maybe that's what it is.
I bet you he is on the Orchids of Asia Wall of Fame.
Oh man, if I could edit that out, I would. And I did not say that. You're gonna get us both in trouble. All right. Talk to you tomorrow. Brave, watch the show. He's been 6:30 Sports Capital.